Well, howdy, neighbor. Welcome to the first volume of my new series that I'm going to be calling the Banjo Journals. Bet you can't guess why. But the whole point here is to document my journey with the banjo, which I'm kind of starting out with. Now, some of you might say, but I've seen you play banjo on your channel, right? Well, not quite. I'll explain what that was in a bit. But as far as the banjo goes, I'm pretty newbie tier. I dabbled with it a while back. I'd say some of my earliest dabblings actually. I was listening to a lot of banjo music, old mountain music or old time music, some bluegrass, and I didn't have a banjo to play on at the time, but I wanted to get one, and I was playing in open G tuning on the guitar, which has some similarities. You you don't have the high string here. You have a bass string, and then you have an extra bass string. Otherwise, open G tuning on the guitar is very similar to banjo. If any of you guitarists out there want to play around with that a little bit, so some of my earliest dabblings were actually on the guitar in open G, and I'll show you some of the things I figured out with that. But really, I don't have a lot of the fundamentals under my belt. I took a few banjo lessons a couple summers back, and that was with a teacher who was very much, following the bluegrass style of three finger picking, which is a very disciplined style. A lot of people, when they hear him into bluegrass music and they make certain comments about it, I can tell they think it's kind of rustic, unpolished music. But I have to push back sometimes and say bluegrass can be pretty sophisticated, and it depends on a lot of accuracy with those finger picks. So I didn't quite get the hang of the finger picks, and you'll see I'm not wearing them in this video. So I've decided, at least for now, to go another route. So I was also interested in old timey banjo techniques. So a lot of that is the famous claw hammer technique. No, I can't really do that yet. I understand it in concept. I can't quite get this thing down. But there are other techniques, two finger, three finger techniques, certain strums, and I'm going to be exploring those. So basically, I'm a kind of beginner. I have some fundamentals I'm bringing over from guitar, from ukulele even. Hey, you can do the claw hammer stroke on a ukulele. Lots of people do it. Look up a guy named Little Rev. He's one of my favorite ukulele players, but one of his whole things is he applies banjo techniques to the ukulele, and it's great. I can never quite get the hang of it. I came up with a strum that really serves my purposes, but it's something that actually formed when I tried and failed to learn clawhammer some years back. So here I am, basically a beginner. I'll show you what I do know. But kind of just to explain the point here, this is January 5th, so it is the 12th day of Christmas, which matters to me. I wish you one last Merry Christmas here. I still might post a couple Christmas videos on my channel, just because I've still been working on those songs and I want to get them out there. But the season's almost over. It is, of course, 5 days into the new year, and it's the time people are still thinking about resolutions. Like a lot of people, I tend to make more resolutions than I keep. We'll see how that goes. One resolution I will say I've more or less stuck to was the resolution to make this YouTube channel. So we're a day away from the 1 year anniversary of this channel. I believe my first video was on January 6th. The same situation then. I had a Christmas song. I started practicing, I think, on Christmas Eve. And I thought, I'll knock this out in a day or two. It took basically the whole Christmas season to get me kind of where I wanted that to be. That's my first video, which is a song in the air, an old Christmas hymn, a carol. And I wanted to do a lot more carols this year, but the whole idea originally was to do a song a week all year long. That's what, 52 weeks? I should be at 52 songs. And I'm not talking about shorts either. I'm talking about fully developed songs. Obviously, I couldn't quite keep up to that challenge. But I formed this channel, and I have 20 something songs under my belt. Maybe actually 35 is the official number on YouTube. That's counting things like unboxing videos of different instruments. That's counting a video I recorded in Romania of a really neat band. That's including shorts even. I don't really tend to include shorts when I'm counting up how many videos I've done, but still, The point is, if I had not made that resolution and made some effort to keep it, then I wouldn't be where I am, even if I didn't make it to the full 52 videos, which would be quite a daunting task. But we'll see for this next year. However, I think the best way to take this forward is to focus on another instrument. I had other candidates in mind. Hey, I'm going to go buy a fiddle, learn that from scratch. Oh, or I could buy a dulcimer, almost called it a dobro. Thought about buying a dulcimer. Um, However, the most logical thing is that I had this sitting around from 2 years ago when I took those Scruggs style lessons and didn't quite stick with it. But yeah, I bought this beautiful instrument because I had another that was a cheaper, pretty entry level banjo, a Johnson banjo. It's still a pretty cheap banjo that I got from my brother, and I was going to learn on that. And then I decided if I really wanted to focus on this instrument, I wanted to get one that was a little smoother to play, a little nicer as an incentive. The other one had pretty high action. So guitar players or other string players will know what I mean there. But the strings were harder to press down. I still might have a purpose for that banjo because I think I'm going to put nylon strings on one of these, which will help me play some of the more old timey classic type styles. So we'll see. And if and when I do that, I'll show it off. But the point here is to document my progress on the banjo. I'll show you some things I already know. Like I said, I might not be an absolute beginner from scratch, especially if I had never played a string instrument before. I'd be in a rougher situation. But I can bring some techniques over from the guitar and from the ukulele. I got this little thing here. So again, you might have seen me play something banjo-like on the channel. That is this little thing. You see the difference? And banjo purists might scoff at this little creature. This is kind of the Scrappy Doo of the banjo family, right? A strange little cousin. But this is a banjo ukulele. So theoretically, it's a banjo type instrument. It's got the basics. It's got your banjo head here, sometimes called the pot, which originally would have been a gourd with a skin over it. We'll talk about banjo origins a little later on. But then you have your bridge, your strings. Basically, a lot like the banjo, just smaller scale, tuned like a ukulele. G, C, A, E on the strings. And of course, only 4 strings. This is a 5-string banjo. There are 4-string banjos. Those are tenor banjos you find in jazz, or interestingly enough, in Irish music. I don't have one of those. I don't necessarily plan to get one. Who knows? We'll see. But this is its own little instrument with a different style of playing. Like I said, you can do the claw hammer on this because, like the banjo, you'll see there's a similar string setup. Uh, that's the second highest string here down to the lowest string. It's not like a guitar. This is what's called reentrant tuning, with a higher string then down to lower. And it gives it a unique little resonance there. This is tuned to an A minor 7 chord. Now, as far as tuning goes, the banjo, in the tuning I have it in, which is often called standard tuning, it's the open G tuning, right? Easiest chord to play in a banjo, G, G major, right? Nice open chord, which means want to play an A, want to play a C, want to play a D, F, G. So there you go. But you also have other chord shapes, your D, a different C, right? You can add some variety there. And of course, you can accommodate various picking styles with the different chord shapes. So lots of possibilities here on this instrument. This is also a very bluegrass style banjo. When I bought it, I thought I was definitely going all in with the Scruggs thing, with my metal finger picks and everything, which is one reason we had this big resonator on the back here. This should be removable. I've never done it. In the future, I might take it off, especially because I'm kind of wondering how my microphone is going to stand up to this sound. I'm trying not to really wail at it, but this is a loud instrument. Banjo ukulele is loud enough. This is louder. It's one reason you don't see banjos and ukuleles mixing much, right? Because ukulele doesn't stand a chance. It's got a quiet little voice. But to the tuning here, I don't have this by memory yet. I do have it in front of me. But we start off with the This should be your G string, right? And it's the highest string. It's what's called a drone string. So you don't even typically fret that string. I guess there are some situations when you would. Hey, I'm learning. So maybe somebody can tell me. But typically, I got my G chord, a C chord, still playing that little drone string, and the D chord. I've noticed the drone string doesn't sound right to me with it. I usually skip it. I'm not sure if that's the proper technique yet. We'll see. As far as tunings go, one thing that was another reason for a little doubt on my part is I wasn't sure what tuning to go with, especially once I felt that I wasn't going fully with the banjo route. I mean, the bluegrass route, which would be standard tuning. And for bluegrass, there is a way to do things. I know there's going to be a certain amount of variety, but I felt a lot more freedom when it comes to old timey styles, some of the other historical styles of the banjo. So, for instance, I have several books here in front of me. One is this Guide to the Banjo by Pete Seeger, famous folk musician. And I hope you can actually read that. I don't know if it's going to be mirrored or something, but How to Play the Five String Banjo by Pete Seeger. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, right? Another favorites. So you'll see the chord chart here. He focuses more on C tuning. And there's also a double C tuning, which I've never tried. I don't see that in here. Here's the G tuning. Here is a different tuning. There's another tuning for the historical, what they call the minstrel banjo, and that's a whole history I don't want to get into right now, right? That has its own tuning. And lots of different tunings for the banjo, lots of possibilities. Just as there are lots of tunings on the guitar, even though some of those don't get a lot of attention in certain genres. But I'm a fan of the blues, so alternate tunings are something that at least I know about in theory. Like I said, dabbled on the open G tuning, but not a lot there. So one of the books I'm going to be dealing with is Pete Seeger's book. Um, who knows? Maybe he'll get me to switch to the C tuning because that's what he seems to prefer. Here he is using a different tuning. So he's all over the place with this. His brother Mike has an awesome CD of historical banjo styles. I think it's called Southern Banjo Styles, something like that. And he uses practically different tuning on, track by track. It's very impressive. Also very daunting for somebody at my level. But I might do a review of this book once I've kind of worked my way through it. I also have Banjo for Dummies, right, by Bill Evans. Not the pianist Bill Evans. Apparently, there's also a banjo player, Bill Evans. Apparently, he seems to be pretty influential, so maybe I'll look him up. But more of an all-inclusive guide. This does your bluegrass styles. This does your old-timey styles. Lots of chord charts in the back. More of a reference than something you're going to work through. I get the sense there's a lot of personality to the Pete Seeger book. I mean, my goodness, he's written the notation out by hand. That's so quaint. I love it. So I might work through the Pete Seeger book, kind of page by page, chapter by chapter, tell you what I think of it. One last banjo resource I have on me at the moment is this book, which my brother gave me for Christmas. Thank you very much. Sure you've watched to this point of the video, brother, right? But A Well of Souls, A History of the Banjo, which specifically gets into the African roots of the banjo, where, it does seem to have come from Africa as this kind of lute-like instrument with a gourd body, then comes to the New World in the Caribbean and various places, in the United States, mostly the southern United States, but possibly elsewhere. I'm very early in this book, but I think I'll review this when I get through it too. Let me just give you a brief demonstration here of kind of where I am with the banjo. Like I said, I have some fundamentals that I think carry over, and I do a little finger picking on the guitar. It's not the kind of disciplined finger picking that would make me really a bluegrass player. And so I'm going to see what I can adapt to the banjo. I'll learn what I can, and we'll see. Maybe I'll decide that the claw hammer is really the way to go. But I can do stuff like this familiar song. I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble. Whoops, that's a D minor for a moment. Trouble all my days. And I'm trying to pick it out a little bit. Again, I have kind of a three-finger style I'm using. It's just self-taught three-finger style. Maybe it's self-taught nonsense to a more experienced player. But this is what I've kind of got going on. Something like that, right? Not fully worked out into a song. Maybe that'll be one of the earlier songs I'm able to really put together and play at length. One other fun little thing I want to show you, just because this goes back to my earlier experiences with the banjo. I'm gonna play with my tunings here again. I'm a big blues fan. I'm a big fan of people like John Fahey too, the American primitive guitar picker. He's very blues influenced, but also mixing various styles around. So I want to tune those together. Very perilous doing this by ear on video. We're getting there. Close enough. Oh, you see what I did there? That's G minor tuning. Oh my gosh. I got that from John Fahey. Again, it's just a silly little trick, but it sounds really cool when I play stuff like the Doc Boggs tune, Country Blues. Oops. Anyway, I'm doing this all in one take, right? Just showing you what I can. Another Doc Boggs song. I've been up and down this road, passing trials and troubles round, but I never known what sorrow was till my sweetheart threw me down. Anyway, very basic little things, and those are actually two of the first songs I kind of learned. With a caveat, I know that's not how Doc Boggs plays them. I just wanted to put it together the best I could. So very, very DIY, very do-it-yourself, just for what I've done so far. But again, I have resources I'm going to be working through. I'm going to post this to a couple banjo communities and hopefully, receive whatever wisdom, whatever criticisms I can, right, in good spirit. But this is simply a beginning. Future episodes will be things like showing new techniques I've learned. Maybe if I finally get the claw hammer down, right, I'll be able to demonstrate that. I'll also think about reviewing different books as I finish them. Oh, check it out. We have a good thumbnail here, right? So I'll think about reviewing some of these books as I finish them, and moving on to other banjo resources. So absolutely, if some blessed soul has made it to this point in the video, feel free to recommend various resources that could help me out. This is just exploratory, and one of the whole points here, along with the channel entirely, it's not that I think I have a lot to show off. I want to document my progress, and I'll say I've looked at other music channels that go back like a decade, or back to the beginnings of YouTube. And it's really interesting to look at some musical YouTubers and see kind of early experiments and then look at where they've gone. So I'd like to be able to leave that kind of document for myself. I'd love to get people on board. Uh, Honestly, I don't have a lot of musical community in real life. I'd like to build that. I'd like to build those real life connections more, but also I want to see who's out there who's interested in similar things and who I might make a connection with. So hopefully that could be you, right? Stay tuned, and I'm going to sign off here. I will see you in the future. Happy New Year.